My goodness, it's a whole day since we last saw each other. Sorry if I'm dazzling you. You can see I'm back here with the V100 and all geared up to do my close-up work. I came to the conclusion in the end, after sleeping on it, that I wasn't happy leaving this at less than 1/10 of a millimetre action. I was kind of trying to do it, find a way to accept it. So it just, you know, you kind of know what you know, and if the action's too low, there's a reason why I kind of opt for 1/3 of a millimetre as an optimum action and not 1/10 of a millimetre like this is. And so as a result, I'm going to have to rectify this. Now, I've had a good look at this nut on this guitar, and it's so beautifully seated that I really don't want to go knocking it off and putting a shim underneath. That just seems such a horrible thing to have to do, just because the joint is so clean and lovely, which it isn't often on these guitars, I have to say. Well, it's not always on these guitars. So this is a beautiful finish or fit, so I don't want to mess with that. So what I'm just going to do, I'm masking off this the nut. It doesn't matter about the loose ends, and I've masked it off so the nut is isolated, and I've actually gone up the sides of the nut as well. Kind of hard for you to see because it's the wrong end of everything, but I have to do it that way because otherwise you're going to get dazzled. I might be able to bring you a little bit closer. Excuse me, pardon me, sorry me. I just sort of squeeze you in amongst everything here. It's not brilliant. Yeah, you should be able to sort of see. I've got a big halo of light flying over the top. Anyway, the point is I've got myself this is isolated so that if I do make any spills whatsoever, they're not going to go onto the surrounding area. And super glue is great stuff, but it does have a habit of kind of blooming, if you like, and spreading out a little bit. So I've got myself some very thin super glue, which I'm going to need for when it comes to refretting another guitar. I've probably even got some even thinner stuff. This is a brush applicator, which is probably a bit easier. It's very thin as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build these. I've got some more super glue. I'm going to build these slots up. I don't want to use it. That's the Gorilla stuff, and it's very gloopy. And I've got some more really thin stuff, and it's probably, no, it's the debonder. Hey, nice to have it. It's like the antidote. I'll keep it handy. Yeah, what I want to do is I want to just build each one of these slots up, because to me, realistically, it's the only way that I'm going to raise this action without upsetting. Now, I mean, I don't lose. If it doesn't work, then I haven't really lost all that much, and I can go backwards and just replace the nut, or even shim the nut, which is kind of what I would have to do, but it's kind of on the cards almost, and I don't really want to, that's all. So I'm just giving myself as many options as possible in different stages. I've got some files here in case I need them, and I've got my nut files here, because actually what I just want to do is with these 911, 16, I just want to, before I put super glue and stuff in here, I just want to take out any of the kind of dust that's already in there. It's fairly easy to do actually with these. So they're all now pretty clean. I've just given myself the best chance of putting some extra stuff in there. So here's the bit that's going to require as steady a hand as I've got, which, folks, like all those classic movies, isn't the most steady in the world. You know, was it Blazing Saddles where he goes, you know, because I've lost it, I can't shoot anymore, I've got the trembles, and the guy says, show me your hand. He goes, well, you look fine. He goes, yeah, but that's the hand I shoot with. Okay, so right now, the thing I want, I can't find, which is, I still can't find it. I'm looking, it's not actually critical, I can use one of these instead. I was looking for the blade, one of these blades, So I just want the tip of the blade to drop the stuff in there. For some reason I have now managed to disappear all my blades. No, there's a couple. That's got a good blade on it. Right. Okay, dokie. Right, so the game here, and I'm going to be as careful as I can with this, and I'm going to just make sure that it doesn't go anywhere I don't want it to go. So I'm going to get my baking powder, and I'm going to, just as lightly as I can, I'm going to try and fill each one of these gaps. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pack it in a little bit, and now I've given myself a bit of masking tape around the place. I can pretty much put what I like in and let it spill, because it's only going onto the masking tape. It won't do any harm. So I'm just using as much as I need to pack out each one of these slots. Now the masking tape, the goo that I'm putting in here, the bicarb of soda, is quite bright white colour. It doesn't have the same look of same colouring as the nut, the bone nut around it, and that's just a c'est la vie. That's the way it is. Okay, and what we're going to do is I'm levelling this off so I don't have more than I need on there. I can just push this out of the way, because I don't want it absorbing too much of the bicarb. Well, sorry, I don't want. There's no point having overrun of bicarb absorbing overrun of glue, because that will just end up with some hard cement. But it's, again, it is masked off. Okay, so I'm going to take a picture of this up close. You can see in more detail. It's quite an interesting process. If you haven't ever done this before, this is a perfectly viable get out of jail free solution if you find you yourself have overcut your nut slots. Bicarbonate of soda into the slots and viscous super glue. Alright, let's find the most medium, which is the runniest one. I'm just going to do a sort of visual, as much of a visual test as I can do. That one looks a bit watery out, doesn't it? Industrial grade, GP, medium viscosity. It's the same stuff, right? Okay, so what I want now, again, looking up close, and I can always go over with sandpaper, so it's not a problem. I just want to drop one drop of super glue onto this. Let's get my light on it. That's good. Onto this, and of course it's gone to the side. How brilliant! How uniquely brilliant! Get over there, and it's not doing it. That's incredible. It's deliberately avoided. Now I can still take that off the nut, which is fine. So I'm going to go ahead and get this directly on, and I'm going to drop it physically, and it's gone to the side again. That's incredible. Now it's over the top. Right, I'm not giving it a chance to run. I'm going to go directly over the top, and I will remove it afterwards. It's playing an I'm not cooperating sort of game. Okay, and so I've now put super glue over the top of each of these, and I'm just going to make sure I steer it the last bit of the way that it has to go, to make sure it touches every part of our stuff that we need it to set. Now it actually does set off fairly well. I'm going to just leave that there. I'll take a picture of it now, so again you can see it in more close up. That's a pretty good coverage. It will require some sanding, because it does make a bit of an ugly mess to begin with. But now we have those slots are filled. And actually I could, looking up close on that picture, in a way the front edge, the leading edge of this could do with fit on there as well. So there's a spare bit of leftover. I'm just going to make sure it touches the leading edge, because I don't want there to be any powder down there that isn't super glued. I need it to be rock solid. So blowing off the excess, we now have what it looks like a pretty thick coverage, but overall the nut still looks the same colour and we can then file off, or sorry, sand off, when this is dried, we can sand off some of that excess super glue, and then what's left, we'll still be able to see the nut slots, but they will be filled with a fairly solid compound, and that means we can just do the lightest of touches now and get grooves cut back into that, and that will then, it's given us back probably at least the 2/10 of a millimetre that we needed. I'm just going to take a picture of this little setup. It's quite filmic looking in its studio kind of way. So the making of, it's very David Attenborough-ish. That's quite a nice shot. You can see the camera pointing down. Okay, so as I say, that's going to need some time to dry. Everything around here is safely protected. There's no, even there's a bit of run of super glue there. There's no chance it's not touching anything. You won't get any discoloration, so that's really good. And then I'm going to leave this as much time as it needs to set. I don't want to assume that it's anywhere near ready. So what I'll probably do, since it's undoubtedly it's not going to run anywhere, I'm going to lift this guitar and gently stand it up. What I'll just do, just to make sure, 2 seconds, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just wipe off this visible excess here and a visible blob of excess there, because just what I don't want is any run anywhere. Okay, and having done that, now I can lift this guitar up and very carefully put it over in the stand and let it dry, and that's fairly near the radiator, which happens to be on. Just having a quick look at it there. Yeah, we'll let that dry out on its own. Meantime, I've got other things to do, so what I'm going to propose, not that it makes any difference to you whatsoever, I'm going to stop this and restart, focused on a couple of other guitars, which is going to be the wonderful, the one and only's vintage V99, and the Baldwin Education Gibson thing that pundits around the world are so horribly snotty about. I'm going to get onto those. And look, I don't know if you saw, but right there was a huge pile of plastic that I got. Sorry, I'll show you. Huge pile of plastic that I got ready for shims, various different things that I could have used for shims, which I now won't, but I'm going to stick in a container over there that I can use at some point. Right, so that done, as I say, I'm going to move a few things around and then get stuck into, how does that hang up? That goes there. Yeah, I'm going to get stuck into the bolt-on Les Pauls, which is quite interesting because how people don't like them, and I think this one's going to be fantastic. So, stop the tape. It's not a tape. Radio, back with the V100. The repair will have dried by now, so I'm giving you a sort of fairly clear look at it. We've got everything masked off, so we're able to give this a quick going over. I might put the head torch on for this. I want a close look. It's quite detailed, but we're able to give it a quick sand down now. And I'll change glasses too. So quite fiddly work. It'd be nice if I had a seat out here, but I don't. So getting as close a look as I can, and I'm just going to use the 240 paper just to basically take off the top layer of glue that's stuck to the bone nut, which isn't going to be difficult. And then what we've got left then is inside, let's see right here, inside the slots then is the glue that's gone, the glue that's mixed with the baking powder that's gone rock solid, and I just literally taking this back to a nice bone finish, which is what we began with. And it's all nicely masked off, so I can't do any harm to anyone. Okay, and then if I want to, I can just put a little bit of sandpaper on here and just do little things like just clean up the face of that as well, because some of the super glue was on there, and that way we get nice clean finish to that as well. Just looking around, I can see the bone is sticking through. It sounds like a bad medical program. But okay, that's quite nice. I've got some finer sandpaper here too that I can do a little bit with. Again, I'll take this off now so I can just make sure the back side of the nut looks clean as well. I'll take that one off too. And again, that's quite good. It's a little bit of paper stuck to the back side, which I can easily get off. I can also get it off with the sandpaper used over the back end. Again, we might need a square edge to do that, and probably a bit of slightly firmer, tougher sandpaper. Again, it's fairly safe because we're working on the back side of the nut. The back side of the nut. Yeah. And again, the purpose of this is really just to tidy up the way it looks and blow out any dust. Okay, and then there's a bit of paper still stuck to there, which if I get myself the back edge of this knife, I can probably just get off easier that way. Maybe I can't, maybe I'll do it with the front edge. Yeah, so that's fair enough. It's just a little bit of leftover paper, and we don't want it sitting on there, so with a bit of careful knife work we can get it off, followed by a bit of sanding to tidy it up. Yeah, all looking good so far on Repairsville. Again, just keeping everything as clean and tidy as possible. Nice. Okay. And then we can again do a bit more smoothing on the top edge with our finer sandpaper. And if we want to, we could just keep on going until we get the bone colour back through, which it pretty much is now anyway. As I say, what we've got, you may be able to see this, is we've got the slots now which are filled in, but they're looking very tidy, as is the front edge of here. Again, a little tiny bit of, absolutely tiny bit of paper stuck to the front, which you just scrape out with this front of the blade. Tiny bit, that's it, gone. All looking nice. Right, so get rid of these bits of paper. We're now into the territory of recutting these slots, and we're going back to square wire, which is where it would have been nice to have been last night, but in reality it's just the way it is. Okay, so I'm just going to organise things so I know what I'm doing. We've got 16, 9, 11, 16, 24, 32 and 42. And I'm going to begin by starting with 16 on these three bottom ones, and I'm just going to make a kind of cut mark, because we've got to, let's put my light on this a bit better, we've got a flat surface in a way, and we could be cutting anywhere. I want to make sure that we've got a start mark that we can work with. There's one, there's two, there's three, and I'm going to switch to final one now, 11 for the top two. I can feel the slots now, and I'm going to cut this top one. Okay, can feel that one, and then the very top one, again just by eye, and there it is, mark is made. Right, so I've got my guide marks courtesy of these, and now I'm going to switch to the correct gauge, and at this point I'm going to want to bring some strings. In fact, I'm going to need to bring the strings back into play now, so I'm just going to do that first, keeping them under tension, so that they don't suffer any damage. Now they're not going to seat very well at this point in time, but that's not too important to me. I'm just going to make sure that they're sat on there at all, which will be fine. Put them under a bit of tension so they stay where we want them to stay. And of course I've gone and crossed these over, that doesn't help. That one. Right. Make sure they're on their saddles. Okay, so I'm going to, ideally, well the action's all wrong here now. It's jumped off. I'm going to want to put these on as well. 2 and 3. And we'll do that thing of occasionally they get stuck under the frets edges. I would put these under a bit of pressure too, so that they're back done up a bit where they should be. And again, they'll sit in these slots, which aren't the perfect slots just yet. Ooh, and that one hasn't cut at all, which isn't so clever. Let's go back to the 16. Cut that one right. You go there and you go. You go there. Okay. Righty-ho. Okay, so I want to get these under a bit of pressure. Okay, so we've got them back on, but now we've got to cut the slots properly. So I'm going to start with the E slot and just slack off the E string, and I'm going to cut its slot now as carefully as I can. I'm going to use the 42 for that. Quite difficult to get it exactly right when you're recutting. You're kind of making a new slot basically, and it's all up to you to get it right. Okay, so there's the slot starting out. I'm going to give it a little bit of shaping with one of these, it's not absolutely necessary, but it can help to shape the round bottom of the slot, because those saws sometimes aren't best at doing that. You can see the occasional bits of the powder in there, but it's not a problem. Okay, so I'm going to keep going with this, and getting a nice clean cut now, tipping backwards. So I'm going to take it easy from here on, get the old thingy out. Got a bit of gap there, so a little bit more. Again, this won't be as solid now as the bone. But it's going to get the right height, which we didn't have before, so I'm pleased about that. And so I'm being very, very careful now, because, as I say, it won't cut the way it won't cut the way bone cuts. Still some room. Oh, sorry. It's all going well so far. Bit more to go. I'm being very careful now to get this not only right angle, but the right angle of in the longitudinal direction as well. Almost there. One tiny whisper of this now, and we'll be down to our 0.3. Take a bit of fluff off there. Okay. Right, there's our whisper. I think that's going to be, get in there, 0.3. Okay, I'm going to now leave that off, because I will come back to that when I need to get access to the second one. Loads of room. Again, it's really about placing the string correctly now, so I'm going to go. Maybe I'll try this way, 32. Okay, so it's about getting this position correct. Let's have a look what we've got. Not quite the right dimensions. I'm going to cut it slightly larger, so I'm going to stick with the 42 for this one, which means I've got to just get it back in that slot correctly first. Okay. So back to careful checking. Loads of room. Sorry. Lift it off. Put it sideways. We know it's that correct tuning. Duh. I'll let it a bit slacker, else I might be able to get it, move it sideways. Right, so here we go. We're hopefully on the home stretch. Just going to take this very carefully. Get these to the right dimensions. That should have had, or could have had the previous owner not done such a good nut job, excuse the expression, but this is going to be alright. We'll get to the right dimensions eventually. Getting there. Once we've done these first three, then I'll drop some graphite into the slots and put the strings in place. We know that's tuned. Yep, we'll put graphite in and then they'll be done, those first three. Getting there. Come on. Still a fair amount of gap between the string and the fret. Again. So, slowly but surely. Not rushing anything. Again, quite a lot of room still. So, trust the feeler gauge and trust the shadows. Look. Again, still some fresh air under there. Very close now. Tiny bit more. Oh, wrong one. Tiny bit more with this one. I think we'll be there for that one. Yeah, close enough. Pull that out of the way. Slacken off that one. This time, go for the, it's not that one. I'm going to try, what are we doing? The one out sequence, so it's that one. So, third one. And just drop that off so we can get access. It's good. You can see by pressing down as well when you've got space between the string and the fret. Sorry, space between the string and the feeler gauge, I should have said. Okay, we're going all right. Not long, that will be done. Fresh air still, so keep on going. Trust the feeler gauge, Luke. we're done. So I'm going to put a little bit of graphite under each of these top three, and that's the first three done. There's a little chip off the bone on the top of this nut, but it's okay, it doesn't affect anything. It just came off when I was cutting the new slots, but it's absolutely no problem. Pleased to be able to say that we've saved this nut and put it back to the correct sort of action. Right, so what I'm going to do now is just then go get these in tune, put them under tension. Now we're going to take the top three off. What I'm going to try and do is just take the E string off and leave it off to one side, take the B off and leave it to one side, and then with a bit of luck only move, I'll slack off the G but only move it side to side bit by bit. So I'm going to go to the 24 now, which is strictly speaking not the correct order, but well, not correct one, but I'm going to use this one. And then I'm just going to cut a little bit, drop it back in, and just see where it sits, and then work outwards from the middle of that side. So here we go. Okay, so you can see it's a lot of hard work to get this right. And I've said it quite a few times before, so you know, if you've watched another video and I'm repeating myself, then feel free to switch off. But you know, sometimes when I'm in the middle of doing this and it's taking all this time, you know, you sort of ask yourself, why isn't this done? I mean, just kind of put something in perspective. This nut, as you probably know, is quite the opposite of how they normally are. They're normally so far undercut. It's beyond belief. This one was in fact unusual in that it was overcut, so that the action's too low. Quite rare. But point being is that the nut pretty much always needs work to make it play really well, and to stop it having intonation problems. And I suppose by the time you've seen, if you've stuck it out with me this far, by the time you've seen me doing this for several hours now to get this right, or at least this nut part, I've been doing this for an hour or so, or whatever it is, 2 hours, an hour and a half, get this right, then it sort of starts to begin to make sense. Well, who would do it? I mean, would the factory do it? Who's going to do it? They're going to pay someone to do it? They're going to try and invent a machine that does it? I don't think so. And then if they do it, does it change the price of the guitars? And if it changes the price of the guitars, is the Western consumer willing to pay for it? And if they're not, then what happens? And so it's kind of a, when you look at what it takes to put it right, it's not surprising in some ways that it's not done. Stop right there. Stop right there. It's just right. So I'm going to put that one to one side, put the graphite in, and then close up the patient. Doink. Blow, and you're done. Tune it up. What am I looking for? No, what am I doing? What happens when you do one back to front guitar? You get lost. Right, here we go. 2 more to go. Just check the positioning of those slots. They're good. Let's take them, deepen them, and away we go. Right. So bring up the B, drop the B in, get the check done, way over, loads of room, move it to one side, and away we go. These always cut at different rates, these saws, slot files, so you know, don't assume that because you had to grind away for hours, with the thicker, for the thicker strings, don't assume that's going to be the case with the thinner ones. You can suddenly find yourself through to the floor within seconds and back where you started, having to fill it and redo it. Almost there on this. In fact, yeah, I'll take a tiny bit more off. Almost there, and then we've got a bit of slippery stuff to put in, and we're onto the final one. It's actually a lot more than you think to go when you look at it from the side, but getting very cautious, staying very cautious. Still room. Yeah, so it's the amount of time it takes to get this right, and you think to yourself, well, there's no machine way of doing this. You know, this has just got to be done by care and careful eye, close eye. All right, I'm gonna. There's a tiny bit more still. Yeah, sort of hard work and careful sort of eyeballing. So, you know, somebody's got to do it, and somebody's got to pay for it. So, and I guess it's just some sort of commercial compromise. It's clearly sending out guitars where the nut action isn't particularly good has never stopped the sale of guitars. So, why should anyone? Why should anyone break their kind of business model in order to put it right? You know, you'd only do it if people would stop buying guitars until you put that time and effort into sorting the nut out. And if they don't, if they carry on buying, possibly because maybe they don't know what they should be asking for, and who would know? Why would a beginner guitarist know? Then you just keep on selling. Do it the way, I guess you do, not as little as such, but you do what you can get away with, and that's business. Why over-engineer something if your market doesn't strictly demand it? I think that's what I'm seeing with, certainly with, very close, I'm going to stop there. Certainly with, I'm finding with people of my age, that's what I was really pleased to find out with Reloved Guitars, is that I kind of, well, I had a hunch, my hypothesis was that people around about my age would be discerning and would be looking for a different quality, and wouldn't settle for that sort of compromise. Okay, so we have reached the end of this, ladies and gentlemen. This needs a bit of a polish indoors because it's covered in the shiny graphite stuff. But otherwise, I wish I had a light brush. Would probably do actually, somewhere. Okay, I'm going to pop myself an A, which is still in tune, which is nice. Woo. Feels nice. Boiled and tired and frazzled. But there we have it. Sorry, I'm dazzling you as well. Superb. Ladies and gentlemen, Darren's success. Finally. It's not what I would have wanted in the ideal world. I'd rather not recut the slots on a guitar with the thingy and thingy method, carbonate, bicarbonate of soda method of the baking powder, Dr. Utker baking powder. But given that we had no choice and that I wasn't happy letting it go out with my below a 1/10 of a millimetre playing action on the first fret, we've now got it to a 0.3 of a millimetre. It sounds like a teeny weeny difference, but it now means we've got a superb action here, and it plays superbly well. Now I know you're going to want. You said you wanted me to play this thing, and I don't play the guitar very well, to my shame. I'm trying to learn. Woo. Don't do filming very well either. Yeah, so I'm not. Well, I will give it a play tomorrow so you can hear it. But yeah, I won't be playing very clever things on it. But what I'll do is I'll take this camera into the house and I'll put it through my my decent amp. And of course, you can't see this, but the camera, the GoPro, is velcroed to the top of a Tascam DR07 Mark II, which is a thing I've been using for podcasting for years, and that is a great recorder, stereo recorder. So I'll be able to get you decent quality sound tomorrow, sound test. But I'm happy with that. I'm very happy with that rescue repair at this end. A little tiny chip, but it doesn't really matter at all. It doesn't affect anything. But the actions are set correctly, thanks to Dr. Utker's bicarbonate of soda and Mr. Everbuild superglue, not the debonder, but the superglue. So that's that done. Thank you for sticking with me for all of that time. It's a bloody long one, but we got it done. And if I'm going to be sending out this, or you're going to be playing this and showing your friends, I want this to be as good as it can be, which is why I wouldn't settle for the action being too low, which, as I said, is a very, very unusual and rare problem when I get guitars. But there we have it. So everything else done.